Ezequiel Wicked Romo ran the Blythe street gang in Panorama City, northwest of Los Angeles, with an iron fist, despite being in jail for all but a year of his reign. That's why, on July 21st, 2024, at around 8 p.m. in the infamous Sentinella State Prison, the would-be assassins of Ezequiel Wicked Romo, Christian Moreno, Johnny Garcia, and Christian Hernandez, were so ferocious that they didn't stop stabbing Romo until guards doused him with pepper spray 4 times. Bleeding to death on the prison floor was a fitting end for Ezequiel Romo after he was jailed for life without parole last year for murder, attempted murder, and conspiracy to commit murder. The bodies began dropping in 2015, only months after Romo got out of jail in late 2014 after an 18-year stint behind bars. Romo was in the slammer since he was just 18 after he'd gotten into a fight with fellow teenager Manuel Avila at Tommy's Hamburger Stand on Roscoe Boulevard in 1995. Avila, 19, punched Romo in the face, who responded by shooting him dead in front of Shock Diners. He was jailed for 10 years and added time onto that sentence for assaults behind bars, finally coming out as a hardened crime boss on a deadly, deadly mission. Romo had made some new jail friends, associates of the infamous prison gang, Inmate, or better known as the Mexican Mafia, which essentially ran the California jail system. His plan was to prove he was worthy of the Mexican Mafia's membership by transforming the Blythe street gang into a feared crew.
A white sheet covers a gruesome discovery in a residential Silmar neighborhood. The body of a young woman found brutally murdered.
She's a female Hispanic, probably in her early to mid-20s. We have no identification and nothing to indicate who she is.
Police say a security guard was opening Cary Ranch Park around 6 o'clock this morning when he noticed a body with at least 1 stab wound at the top of the hill.
She's fully clothed, nothing out of the ordinary. We did initially take a look for sexual assault, and that does not appear to be the case in this incident.
Authorities say she was out in the open and there had been no attempt to hide her body.
This park is surrounded by a fence, and these gates are locked from sunset until sunrise, so authorities believe the victim was alive when she went into the park sometime after 6:30 last night.
In order to get someone up to the top of the hill, we can deduce that most likely she was a willing participant, or at least she moved on her own. Most likely they probably jumped the fence.
That park sometimes is a little trouble.
Neighbors in the area say the park is a known hangout for partiers.
People come here and they park here. They go up and they drink and they do drugs. And that happens all day, every day.
Robert Hernandez has lived across the street from the park's entrance for decades and says while it does have a reputation for criminal activity, he's never heard of violence like this.
The murder stuff doesn't happen every day, but the fact that something like that would happen or could happen is not super, super surprising, just because so much bad things going on at night.
Because of the park's remote hilltop location, authorities haven't found any surveillance video that might help their investigation, and they don't have any information on
the California State Prison is investigating the stabbing death of an inmate. According to investigators, 2 inmates, Juan Martinez and Ray Martinez, attacked and killed 59-year-old Michael Torres. Torres had been serving a 133-year sentence for a list of crimes, including attempted murder, and was a third-strike offender. The inmates accused of killing Torres are also serving life sentences. Officials are limiting inmate movement right now while the case is being investigated.
What's going on, you guys? Welcome back. Another episode of Greenlit Gang TV. Much love, much appreciation. Thank you guys for checking out today's video. If you guys like what you are hearing, what you're seeing, please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment. It means a lot to me if you guys can do that for me. But anyway, we're going to be getting into a story that I've been working on. I'm really excited to bring you guys this story on Ezequiel Wicked Romo. Just a really interesting story that has a lot of layers to it. Shows the power of the street gangs and the prison gangs that really run the streets. Even a guy like Ezequiel Romo, when you kind of get to the heart of his story, he was trying to take his gang that he basically controlled, as Blythe 13, and was trying to get them in with the Mexican Mafia. And basically, he was trying to impress the Mexican Mafia, and he was trying to get his gang up underneath them and all the benefits that come with that. So Blythe 13, it's a Mexican-American street gang. It comes out of Panorama City, which is part of the San Fernando Valley. San Fernando Valley covers the northern section of the city of Los Angeles and is commonly referred to as, quote, the Valley. The Valley also includes the three smaller cities of Burbank, Glendale, and San Fernando City. And this is really interesting. So I kind of read on a little site, just a really informative site. I put the picture up. The Valley has more street gangs than any part of LA, partly because it's also the largest geographic area defined in that area. And also the turf sizes of these gangs tend to be smaller. So kind of a tighter, more compact area. And the territories aren't as big for these street gangs, but there's a lot of them. There are only a few black gangs in the entire area, while there are over 40 Hispanic gangs and over 200 tagger crews. And a lot of those are interlinked, the tagger crews with the Hispanic gangs. So, and within San Fernando Valley, you've got Panorama City. Panorama City is known as the San Fernando Valley's first planned community. It came around in 1948. It was developed as such by residential developer Fritz B. Burns and industrialist Henry J. Kaiser. When I heard the word Kaiser, you think of Kaiser Permanente Hospital. It's kind of one of those things where you see these names on buildings and you go, man, where did that come from? Been around forever, right? And simple Google search will give you some really interesting history. The master plan was created by the architectural firm Wardman and Beckett. Burns, seeing the tremendous potential and fortune, right, everything comes down to money, that could be made as large numbers of World War II veterans came home and started families. They teamed up with Kaiser in 1945. So they saw the potential, and Wardman and Beckett, this architectural firm, they team up with Kaiser in 1945 to build and create community homes. The vast majority of the houses were bought with loans issued by the Federal Housing Administration, or FHA, or the Servicemen's Readjustment Act of 1944, better known as the GI Bill. And this is what got a lot of baby boomers and people coming back from the war into houses. You see those memes where I saw one the other day where it's like when the 70 or 80, the baby boomer who bought his house for a pack of gum and $100 is selling his home for $2 million. It's like, it was a lot easier, man, back then to succeed. And, nowadays it's not so easy. It's very, very hard just to make ends meet. Homes in the area were sold with racially discriminatory covenants. Now, you got to remember this. A conditions covenants restrictions document filed with the county recorder declared that no Panorama City lot could be, quote, used or occupied by any person whose blood is not entirely that of the white or Caucasian race. Oh, my God. Yeah, when I read that, I had to reread it a couple times, but yes, that is true. Such restrictive covenants, which sometimes also limited ownership to people of the Christian faith, were then common in many communities at the time. Although rendered legally unenforceable, thank God, because the Civil Rights Act of 1968 came around, most of these documents have not been amended to remove the certain language, okay? So what happens is you get areas where a lot of white people, then you get a lot of areas with a lot of people of color, all right? So Panorama City is largely Hispanic. It's got a blended area, but it's largely Latino-based, okay? And what happens is when you are basically developing these communities by racism, those people of color are a lot less fortunate. They get a lot worse schools. They get worse stores. They get worse health care. The system is rigged. Okay, the system is rigged. As a white guy, I even know that. Okay, where I live, where I'm from, there's absolutely hood areas, gang areas. And it's not on accident that the people of color are most afflicted by that. And that's just kind of giving you an idea. And then what does that do? You're dealing with immigrants. You're dealing with people that are struggling. It gives rise to street gangs. It gives rise to criminal activity. People are safe in numbers. That's where a lot of these gangs get created, inside prison and outside of prison, guys. So we're going to be talking about, though, now Ezequiel Romo, wicked. Dude was just a straight killer. So on July 21st, 2024, around 8 p.m. in Sentinel State Prison, he was stabbed to death. Romo, nicknamed Wicked. Now, this is really important to understand. He very, very much wanted the Blythe Street gang of Panorama City to work under the Mexican Mafia, all right? Blythe Street Gang, or BST, is a predominantly Hispanic American street gang located in Panorama City section of LA in the west area in San Fernando Valley. During the late 70s, Blythe Street Gang was originally a clique or subgroup of the gang Barrio Van Nuys, but it broke away from BVN to establish their own neighborhood. Just a little history. Blythe Street Gang are the first gang in the San Fernando Valley to be targeted, and this is really interesting, for a gang injunction in 1993 by the city of LA. That injunction case became permanent in 2000. The Blythe street turf is situated from Parthenia north to about Saticoy south from Van Nuys Boulevard, east to Sepulveda Boulevard west, in those surrounding areas. The LAPD have documented around 350 members of this gang, and in the amended gang injunction complaint, they named 96 members. So, remember this injunction was permanent in the year 2000. Obviously, those numbers are up. Obviously, those numbers have been, doubled, tripled, quadrupled, whatever. But just giving you an idea of kind of when they developed, certain things that happened in their history and kind of their territory. And there are 6 main cliques of the Blythe Street Gang, which included the Chicos, the oldest clique, the Dukes, SS Los Duques, DKS, Cyclones, CLS, or the Rascals, RKS, RCS, and the Night Owls, NOS, which is basically, from reading this, it's a newer clique. Outside these 6 cliques, there are also the Tiny Locos, or the Hispanic Most Wanted. I like that one, Hispanic Most Wanted. I like that name. Ezequiel Romo, all right. He is an imposing individual. He basically goes, you can tell he's one of those guys that he goes into prison young, all right? You see the picture I put up where he's arrested for the meth possession? This is kind of what, we're not going to go too far off on the drug use again, okay? Sometimes I know I ramble in my videos, and I apologize for that. But this is a guy that's done a lot of time. Your mental health deteriorates. You become very much institutionalized. You combine that with methamphetamine use, a sense of grandiose, and these plans, these basically evil plans that you're developing inside your head, inside prison. You're trying to click up with the Mexican Mafia, which is all that's going to do is make you basically untouchable as a leader. And basically, kind of what it did. And it gave him the ability to think and say and do whatever he wanted. And if you got in his way, or he felt like he didn't want to pay you, as we'll talk about, he just killed you. It's that simple. Okay? So, Romo, he was serving a life sentence with no possibility of parole after being convicted prior year in 2023 of murder, attempted murder, and conspiracy to commit murder. He had recently been transferred to the Sentinel State Prison, which Sentinel State Prison opened in 1993. It's a 3,000-man prison, and it's in the desert, in the Imperial County desert. I put a couple pictures up. I can't emphasize that enough. It is in the desert, all right? So he gets stabbed to death around 8 p.m. on Sunday, all right? The 3 inmates that attacked him, all right, 2 of them were doing life, no parole. Another one was doing like 20-plus years, okay? So they apply 4 canisters of pepper spray on these guys, and they still don't stop until that 4th one finally is over with, all right? Ezequiel Romo, he didn't have a shot afterwards, but he's pronounced dead 2 hours later. That gives you an idea of how bad they wanted to kill this guy, all right? Like I said, he's stabbed around 8. He gets taken to an on-site medical facility. He's pronounced dead technically at 9:52 p.m. on July 21st, 2024. Okay, now, the 3 guys that had killed him, Christian Moreno, has been in the prison since 2015 and is serving a 20-year sentence for assault and escape. Garcia has been behind bars since 2009 and is serving a life without parole on convictions of murder, attempted murder, robbery, extortion, and gun charges. And then Hernandez, who's 40, and I'm sorry, Garcia was 39, Moreno's 31, and Hernandez, 41 years old, is also serving life without parole and was shipped to Sentinella in 2006 after he was convicted on a first-degree murder conviction and an additional 2 years on jailhouse drug charges. These guys are not somebody to play with. You can even tell in their pictures, man. We talk about it. It's in the eyes. It's absolutely in the eyes on all these guys. When I look at Ezequiel Romo's picture, even the one he's on meth, he's skinny, his hair's slicked back. You can tell he's been, that picture, you can tell he's been on the street. That picture, you can tell he's been on the street. He's been using, his hair's growing out. The other pictures, bald head, stockier, bigger, probably still using drugs in prison, but he's also working out. He's eating well. He's on a more Basically, it's forced, but he's on a routine. And you can see that with guys, and it doesn't matter your skin color, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, whatever. If you're on the street and you're using drugs, you can always tell the pictures of the guys when they're fresh off the street, right? Look at that one picture, and I'll be dead honest with you guys. When I saw the picture of him with the slick back hair, I almost messed up this video. I did not realize that was Ezequiel Romo, okay? The first picture that I took a picture of, it didn't have his name. It didn't have any info underneath. I saw it on Google Images. I swear to you, I did not know it was him. It's not until I was digging and reading another article, okay, that there was a caption underneath, and it even says that it doesn't look much like the other pictures of him. And I was like, wow. And if you guys have done time, or you've been, if you've used drugs or got sober or whatever, if you're currently using, you know what I'm talking about. That picture they take of you, and I've got them when I've been arrested, on a run or whatever. I'm sucked up, I'm skinny, my eyes are blacked out. Then you take a picture getting out or halfway through, whatever. You're stockier, you've put weight on, you're a different person. And you can absolutely tell that. But I was talking more about the three guys that killed him. You can just tell by their pictures. Those guys are straight killers, man. Those guys would make no qualms about it. And you kind of think that Ezequiel Romo, I'm sure he knew he had a target on his back. I don't think he was long for this world. I think he knew how he was living, the things he was doing. Man, you can't just keep doing those things and think that stuff's not going to come back on you. Because when you kill somebody, you don't know, especially when you're killing people that are basically from where you live. And then you're going to prison in areas that are, maybe not right where you are, but you're in California, in the state prison system. Any of those guys he killed, that woman he killed, that was tragic. We'll talk about that. You don't know who her cousin is or her friends of friends are. You're out here having people murdered, and you're the boss of bosses. Homie, you got a big target on your back, and he absolutely did. So Romo, he had been released from prison in 2014. He'd done 18 years for the manslaughter and for assaulting another inmate. Now, I talked about the manslaughter charge in my intro. Okay, when they got into a fight outside of the burger joint, the guy punches him, Romo pulls out a pistol, smokes him. In that case, it's kind of like, I feel bad for the guy smoked, and everyone's like, wow, everyone should be fighting. I don't know why they're not fighting more. Things used to be different, but in that case, I don't necessarily blame Romo. It's like, man, if you're going to take a swing at somebody, if I hurt you in a certain way, I can't then be mad if you take it to the next level. So in that case, it's like, man, he's young. Yeah, he shouldn't have pulled the gun, but he did. And it is what it is. But I read through so he gets more time added on for a jailhouse assault that happens while he's locked up on the manslaughter charge. So I was able to find this appeal in this 3rd District Court in Sacramento, all right, and from 2011. And I read a little bit on the jailhouse attack that had taken place. So Ezequiel Romo, who's actually, I found his middle name, Mauricio, and Marco Avelos, both in custody in state prison, attacked another inmate, stabbing him with a handmade weapon. A jury found both defendants guilty of assault with a deadly weapon by a person confined in a state prison, serving less than a life term. That was interesting. I didn't know they even had charges like that. So it's like, if you're serving a life sentence and you do that, do you get less time? That was really interesting, the wording on that. Weapon by a person confined in a state prison serving less than a life term. Please comment down below if you know more about that. Because I'll be honest, when I read that, I go, do you get less punishment if you're doing life and you do that? I'm serious. Please comment down below. It says Penal Code S4501. So anyway, the jury also found that defendant Avalos used a deadly and dangerous weapon during commission of the assault. The trial court sentenced Avalos to 26 years to life, and defendant Romo, our guy Ezequiel Romo, only got 8 years. So Avalos seems like the main aggressor. Romo was just a part of it. And, he tried to appeal, but whatever. So he gets time added on. So he gets the 10 years, and he gets the 8 years, and he gets out. All right? When he gets out, he is on a warpath. All right? He returns to his old neighborhood of Panorama City, intent on bringing the gang into his line, into the Mexican Mafia's line. And basically what he's intent on doing is making more money, being more violent, and having more power and more control. He returned to his old neighborhood, planned on bringing gang into line. Witnesses testified at his trial in the Los Angeles County Superior Court. Because remember, he's killed in prison, so he gets wrapped up on all these murders. Blythe Street Gang, a gang that takes its name from a few crowded blocks between Van Nuys Boulevard and Burnfield Avenue, was in Romo's view plagued with, quote, dirty homeboys, according to a former associate who testified against him. Romo, a vicious killer who was the subject of a 2020, that's really interesting. If you guys have it, take the time to go read this, of a 2023 profile by the Los Angeles Times, was convicted of multiple murder, conspiracy, attempted murder, and other charges last year. He was responsible, according to the outlet, for 8 deaths. He wrote this. Now, so basically when he goes and does his prison time, all right, when he goes and does his prison time, he gets a contraband cell phone, all right? And in one of the WhatsApp messages to one of his main guys, one of his right-hand man, he's basically saying, quote, and this was a text from 2017, "All I ask for is complete control of Panorama City," he wrote in a WhatsApp message to one of his henchmen in 2017. The witness said Romo intended to purge the gang of snitches, drug users, and anyone he perceived as disloyal. He wanted Blythe Street to work under the Mexican Mafia, the syndicate that controlled the prisons where he'd spent the last 18 years. The witness went on to say, quote, "His thing was making things right for them people," the witness said. Quote, "Taking care of people in the county jail. It sounded good, but a lot of violence came after." So at first, from what the witness says, guys are like, okay, yeah, hey, Mexican Mafia is Mexican Mafia. They're the top dogs. They're the big dogs. They're running things. Better to join than to not. Easier to join than to not. And, according to testimony, the first murder that Romo orchestrated was for his own profit. The witness testified that Romo bought a kilo of coke on credit, then arranged for a young member of Blythe Street Gang to kill dealer Felipe Delgado so he would not have to pay for it. Yes, Felipe Delgado was murdered on November 10th, 2015 after being shot behind an apartment building in Panorama City, LA. So what does he do? He robs a drug dealer. He says, yep, okay, I'll take the coke on consignment. Felipe Delgado, probably a little intimidated, probably a little scared, probably knows about, Romo, probably hoping to God that he pays him. Doesn't pay him. I don't really it's just, yeah, man. That's the kind of stuff that I part with guys on. It's like, that's just whack to me. I'm sorry. So he shoots him behind an apartment building. 2 months after Delgado was gunned down behind a Kester Avenue apartment complex, Romo was arrested on drug charges. He pleads guilty and was sentenced to serve 4 years at Centinela, where with a contraband cell phone, this is what we're talking about, he maintains that stranglehold over Blythe Street Gang. That's where you see the messages from 2017. So he smokes Delgado, doesn't get picked up on that, but he gets picked up on drug charges, all right? But 4 years for him, he does that standing on his head, all right? Isidro Topo Alba, a Blythe Street veteran who clashed with Romo, was lured to a Target on Raymer Street, waiting for what he thought was a drug deal. Alba was ambushed. 2 gunmen riddled his Dodge Avenger with bullets, killing Alba and narrowly missing his girlfriend in the passenger seat. After the bullets stopped flying, she ran into the street to flag down an oncoming car, only to realize this is nuts. So Alba's Avenger gets shot up. Girlfriend barely survives. She's freaking out. She's at this Target. She jumps out. She books it. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? She flags down an oncoming car, and the car she flags down is the shooters. They realize, oh shit, she's not dead. So they hop out and start shooting at her again. And this is all caught on video footage, but she somehow survives that. That's God. If you don't believe in God, you should, because that gives you an idea. But it's like, that gives you an idea of someone's, when someone's stressed, when someone is going through an absolutely crazy moment like that, you're in tunnel vision mode. So for her to not even recognize, all of a sudden shots are flying, bullets are flying, boyfriend gets smoked. She doesn't even recognize the car that's shooting at her. And she runs towards the main road, tries to flag down a car, and what are the odds she flags down the wrong car? One of the men who killed Alba and shot at his girlfriend was, quote, Oscar Smokey Molina, Robo's fawning right-hand man. You word to use fawning, that basically tells you this guy, he looked up to Romo, right? He would do anything he needed him to do. From Molina's phone, detectives recovered WhatsApp messages sent to Romo pledging to, quote, always have your back as long as I am around. And Romo writes back, gracias for your words. They are a gift I accept more than money or shiny objects. In his WhatsApp messages, Romo wrote of demanding complete control of Panorama City. That's from that 2017 message. Described himself as, quote, a general, and his gang as, quote, an empire. Instead of his management style, this is kind of funny, I'm not going to lie. Some say I'm too hands-on. It's like, yeah, Romo, you a little too hands-on would be putting it lightly. My management style, dear God. According to a witness close to Molina, Romo ordered him to, quote, take care of a young Blythe street hanger-on. This is sad, man. Carlos Rios, the 21-year-old's sin, is what this article says, tattooing his face with a, quote, B without first being inducted into the gang. Rios was shot in the back while spray painting Blythe street graffiti on a wall on Valerio Street. This one's pretty sad, man. And you see the picture of him, he's just a young kid. He's probably lost, probably, I don't know. Can't speak to the background or home life, but that's sad. 21 years old, just wants to be a part of something. Even in the article, they say he's a hanger-on. That's where another one I part with Romo. I'm like, did you really have to do all that? I could see maybe saying, hey, man, go cover that up. You got, 48 hours, whatever. But shoot him in the back while he's tagging. And interestingly enough, he's tagging Blythe Street. But anyway, yeah. So... excuse me. So after that happens, Molina texts him, basically worked out perfecto. It worked out wonderful. And that's how Molina kept Romo informed about other killings in the neighborhood. All right. According to his WhatsApp messages, after another one, Santos Raider Martinez, an 18-year-old Blythe Street gang member, gunned down a rival gangster and a bystander who happened to be sitting next to him on a bus bench. Molina wrote to Romo, quote, everything worked out perfecto once again. Romo writes back, quote, good to know and gracias, be safe. Before long, however, now remember this, their relationship soured. Molina, remember, he was his right-hand guy. He's keeping him engaged on everything. Romo dressed down Molina, and dressing down just means you basically embarrass him. Like if your boss dresses you down in front of people, like, this is what you did wrong, you're so stupid, how could you be this dumb? That's what Romo did for missing his calls. Molina whined about Romo's nitpicking, quote, writing sometimes to him, sometimes I'm not having a good day, he told his boss. And it's like, I just don't think Ezequiel Wicked Romo's the kind of guy that you whine to or tell him, hey, man, I missed your call. Sometimes I'm not having a good day. So early, what happens? Sure enough, guys, early one morning in 2018, Molina stepped out of his Tobias Avenue apartment and is shot in the doorway by an old friend, Eder, sorry if I'm saying it wrong, Mousy Mendoza. A witness testified that Romo ordered Molina's death so this kind of adds to it. So if this is true, okay, I get it. He'd been caught lying, basically with drug deals, and he owed people money and, quote, he was using drugs. So two things right there, all right. One, I don't really know what he was lying about. If Molina's, his right-hand guy, I just think Ezequiel Romo got a little tired of him, got a little fed up with him, mad at him for missing his calls. And two, okay, so he's weeding out drug users, but it's clear in many of his pictures, he seems under the influence of meth. With the eyes, the way he's looking, there's the mugshot where he's arrested for meth, but even in some of his jailhouse prison pictures, and just because you're not sucked up or skinny doesn't mean you're not using meth. You can be eating pretty fine. You can be eating fine, working out, doing everything, and still be, using methamphetamine in prison. So very big contradiction, kind of a hypocrite in that case. I would venture to say that when he's doing a lot of his time, if you think Ezequiel Wicked Romo's just sitting in there, staying straight, he's not. So many of these gang members, so many of these top dogs, you guys would be shocked. They're all getting high in there. They are all getting high in there. So, 12 days later, after Molina's death, Mendoza and another Blythe Street gang member, Lorenzo Scooby Gonzalez, okay? And Mendoza, remember, that's Eder Mousy Mendoza, all right? And his old friend, he killed his old friend, Molina, who was, who was Wicked's right-hand guy. Eder Mendoza and another gang member, Lorenzo Scooby Gonzalez, they pick up a woman. Now, this is the real one that bothered me. Karen Tobar in an unlicensed, quote, bandit cab. Prosecutors wrote in court papers. Tobar, she's only 23 years old, beautiful woman, had been in Molina's apartment just before he was killed. So this is the absolute definition of wrong place, wrong time. Believing she'd been talking to police, Mendoza and Gonzalez stabbed her to death at Cary Ranch Park in Silmar, California. Prosecutors allege both men pled not guilty to murdering Molina and Tobar. She was found at around 6:15 a.m. in the park on February 23rd, located near the intersection of Laurel Canyon Boulevard and Crest Knoll Drive. Tobar also had stabbing cuts on her lower back, but apparently she had not been robbed or assaulted. And, yeah, man, just sad, very, very sad. That one really bothered me. There's a picture of her that I posted. You see her body's covered up by the sheet on the grass. And this is the stuff that when we glorify gangs, when you guys, and myself too, when I was younger, I used to think, man, when I hang out, when I was using or dealing or stuff like that, and you're hanging around certain gang members, you're like, man, this life's exciting, this life's fun. But this is the kind of stuff that really goes on. This is the kind of stuff that really goes on. Women are killed, women are beaten, women are assaulted. These guys are bad dudes, man. These guys are bad dudes. Someone like Ezequiel Wicked Romo, his nickname fits. He was an evil individual. You're not having, and the guys surrounding him, he brought their level of depravity up. So his level of depravity, his level of violence goes up. So do the guys around him. And it was bad. So in August of that year, Gonzalez was charged with murdering his cellmate in a downtown Los Angeles lockup, Joseph Capone Hutchinson. All right. Now, remember this, okay? Remember this. Hutchinson, 51 years old at the time, was a longtime associate of Michael Mosca Torres, a Mexican Mafia member who for years controlled the LA County jail system. Considered by law enforcement to be the dominant organized crime figure in the San Fernando Valley, Torres, 59, was killed last July at California State Prison, Sacramento, where he was serving 133 years to life for attempted murder, witness tampering, and other crimes. And a month later, check this out, that's when Hutchinson was found stabbed and beaten to death in the cell he shared with Gonzalez in the 2400 module of Men's Central Jail. So, yeah, this is how this stuff happens, all right? And when you've got an individual like Ezequiel Wicked Romo with a one-track mind of, they were using words like purge and cleanse my gang. And all that means is I'm going to get rid of people that I view as threats. I don't really think it matters if you're using drugs. It's just if he didn't like you, if he viewed you as someone that wasn't 100% aligned with him, or they even thought for a second that maybe you're cooperating, or even like in the case of the 23-year-old woman, Karen Tobar, maybe you saw something happen, you're dead. There's no middle ground. There's no, maybe not, maybe we'll go easy. No, you're dead. You're done. It's over with. We're not even going to go down that road of deciding. And at the end of the day, it's just, like it said, Ezequiel Wicked Romo was using all of this to just raise his own standing in the Mexican Mafia. And I will say this. That gives you an idea of the power of Miami. This guy, Ezequiel Wicked Romo, he's the feature of an LA Times article. He's having all these people murdered and killed. He's got all these underlings doing all his dirty work for him and getting mad at his right-hand guy because you're not answering my calls on time. You picture a guy out there in the free world living his day-to-day life, even though he's a gang member, and you got a guy in a cell, probably on serious lockdown, with nothing to do but have his contraband cell phone and make calls. So I kind of not laughed, but I was like, oh my God. But it gives you the idea, because Ezequiel Wicked Romo looks like the top dog, right? They make him, even the way they have the pictures, it's like, but no, man, this guy was just trying to get in with the Mexican Mafia. Those guys are the guys that have the power and the control and call the shots. And if you don't want to get along, if you don't want to pay the tax, the 10% street tax, or if you don't want to, that's why Ezequiel Wicked Romo did all this. He wanted to take the next step. There's only so much you can do. Okay, you've got a local street gang, all right, a local Serrano street gang. There's only so far you can go. He knows he's going to go back to prison any day, right? He's not out free. Like I said, he wasn't in the free world too much at all. So the next step to take is to become a big dog in prison. And the way you do that is to get in with IMA and become a member and then rise up in those ranks. But I would, I would say he went about it in a way that you're killing your own people. Like they said, testimony in Romo's text messages created the portrait of a micromanager who knew just one response to petty slights and suspicions. Get an unsanctioned tattoo, quote, take care of it. When the lieutenant who dutifully orchestrated that murder and several more got strung out and stopped returning Romo's calls, it was his turn to go. And if you had something Romo wanted, like that kilo of coke from Delgado, why pay for it? His dealer got the same treatment, a bullet in the back. And this deputy district attorney, I'll kind of leave you guys with this. He said it right. Why would you kill your own gang members? Deputy District Attorney Eric Siddell asked in his closing argument, quote, because in Romo's world, if you don't fit the mold, if you don't do what he wants, you get killed. So anyway, there you guys have it. Much love, much appreciation. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time, peace.